You're listening to the NCF&B podcast. The North Carolina Food and Beverage Podcast takes you behind the scenes of North Carolina's food and beverage industry. Be sure to follow us on Twitter and Instagram at NCFB Pod, presented by Food Scene. That's foodscene.com, providing professional photography, social media management, video production, and website design. And now, enjoy the show.
Hello, and thank you for listening to the NCF&B podcast. I am your co-host, Max Trujillo.
And I'm your co-host, Matthew Weiss. And this is my inaugural podcast from our brand new studios. Max, I know you've been here once, but we are in downtown Raleigh at the corner of Fayetteville and Hargett. So,
welcome, Matt.
Thank you. Good to be here.
We did a lot of painting in here, and we put a coffee machine in. We've got a record player playing some Rolling Stones in the other room right now.
I like it. It does set the vibe.
Yeah.
And so the vibe specifically here is for our guest today, coming all the way from Durham via Holly Springs, because that's where he lives.
Via Skinny
Atlas. The executive chef of the 21C Hotel and the Counting House Restaurant, Mr. Thomas Card.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Yeah, man.
Thanks for being here.
What's your first impression of the new recording studio?
It's really nice.
It's very blue.
It's very blue.
Yeah.
In each of the rooms.
It's NCF&B blue.
Yeah, and it actually is the exact color from our logo. And we are sharing this office space with, of course, our biggest proponent of the show, Food Scene, my wife's business, Felicia's, but also Matthew Konar Architecture. A lot of you restaurateurs out there have had your building built by Matthew Konar, so that's pretty sweet, and he's a really cool guy. And then Mike Rosato of MRC Creative, or MRC, I guess it's redundant. It's Mike Rosato Creative, yeah. Who does a lot of restaurant branding, logos, graphic design. So we're all in the restaurant business, and we all kind of shacked up in a cool studio downtown. So,
and the place is called The Kitchen.
The Kitchen. That's the working title. Yeah, why not?
So let me get into this. So Thomas, I just, for our listeners' reference, before we even get into your dossier and what brings you here, I have to say that personally, I didn't really know much about you except that every food event that I go to, I always see you there. And I have to say, not blowing smoke, you always have the best dish there. And that is like a very unique, I just said it. That is a unique skill because you're making hundreds of one plates, and to make an impression on that is something that's a really hardy task. And I also want to add that you're not doing like, the obvious, like, let me make a short rib taco with some cheese and throw some ranch dressing on it so everyone, of course, will love that and come back. But you're doing, like, octopus and other higher-end stuff that is really standing out. So what is the key there? What's the trick?
Well, every single time we do these events, the first thing that comes to our mind is, like, how approachable is it to the masses?
Yeah.
We don't want to try to be way too creative and put something out there that, maybe one or two people will get and the other ones will just kind of be like, yeah, I don't get it. So, the thought process behind it is, like I said, approachability, spices and flavoring is huge, and definitely salt. I mean, I think a lot of the times in those events people forget to season properly. But
right.
Well, and in speaking about those events specifically, Thomas, you and I, we were both down there in Charlotte just a couple weeks ago for the NCRLA Chef Showdown, although I like to call it more the Bartender Showdown because I was a contestant representing Social House with Brian the Hammer LaRusso down there in Charlotte. He was my biatch. Which, by the way, that was kind of funny. We're walking up with all of our gear. Melissa Katrinzik from Durham Distillery is over here. Joe Nicole, who ended up winning the whole damn thing. Props to you, Joe. You had an awesome cocktail. But everybody sees us walking in, and everyone knows Brian the Hammer LaRusso. And so they're like, Brian, I didn't know you were entered in this. That's awesome. Oh, and you got Max to help you out? I go, no, I'm the bartender. He's my bitch. Everyone's laughing. They're like, yeah, right. They all knew. And truth be told, I looked at Brian and went, what the hell are we going to make? He goes, I got this. And he basically just created the recipe himself. But you, Thomas Card, not Brian LaRusso, you were the People's Choice winner at this Chef Showdown this year.
Best savory dish.
And and it was proof. I mean, when Brian and I were posting up making cocktails, there's a lot of downtime. I said to Brian what Matt just said to you. I go, Matt has like a big heart on for Thomas's food. Like every time he goes out there, he makes it a point to tell me, you got to get Thomas's food. Every time he does these things, whether it was Thrive NC was down the way, you were at Farm to Fork. Me and John Childers were chilling out back in the day. And, every single time you throw something down, it's like he's on his A game. Every time.
And last year at the NCRLA Chef Showdown, it's when you had that octopus dish that I first had. Yeah.
Anyhow.
Yeah, I kind of screwed that one up.
Could have fooled me.
Yeah, octopus isn't really from North Carolina.
Right.
But I was just going out hard with a really good dish and hope maybe they look past that part. But
maybe that's why you didn't win last year. But
probably why. Yeah.
But hey, well.
We've had that conversation. I think it's like, as long as you can't get it from the state, I think it's okay to use it. If you used it over something that was in North Carolina, then that's a faux pas. But
Well, didn't Scott Crawford say the same thing about his octopus dish over at Crawford and Son, right?
Right. It's like we're regionally close, but if you can't get something, I still want to get it. I mean, it's the same thing with like sparkling wine. If you want champagne, you got to go to champagne. You got to go to France to get champagne.
Yeah.
And then you got to go to like Triangle Wine Company or something. That's where I'd go if I was going to get some champagne. Right now, if you go to Triangle Wine Company, you can get champagne like de Valois, Perrier Jouet, Piper Heidsieck, Laurent Perrier. You even get like grower champagnes like Coyon Brut. All of these are like $37 to $40. And then if you use the NCFB promo code to get 10% off, that's like $12 off. No, I'm kidding. That's like $3 to $4 off. So go to trianglewineco.com, order online. They'll deliver it to you. Hey, they might even deliver it to this office in downtown Raleigh. That would be sweet. I wouldn't have to get off my butt. I could just drink champagne from the studio office. Anyhow, hit them up. Tell them that Max and Matt of the NCF&B podcast sent you. Do you see how I sneakily put this commercial inside? This happened later. This didn't happen then. This happened later. But I made it sound like it happened then. And now back. So what's it like working at the 21C Hotel?
Well, it's a lot of fun, and it's challenging at times. I'm not gonna lie. Being part of a hotel, we definitely have our built-in guest. It's a 125-room hotel, so you never really know what's coming. On a Monday night when you think it's gonna be slow, all of a sudden everybody in the hotel comes down, and next thing you're doing 90 covers with your weakest team because you scheduled it that way, right?
Yeah.
But on top of that, doing banquets and catering, we have a ginormous lounge, which is pretty popular. And, at times it feels like, hey, the restaurant's kind of slow, but you look past that little wall and there's 100 people out at the lounge just eating.
Having bar snacks and cocktails.
Yeah. So it always keeps us on our toes.
Yeah.
And, working there as a chef is great because the company, 21C, they're really about having a chef-driven restaurant and giving the chef the freedom to do what he wants. So I don't have anybody sitting there telling me I can't put something on the menu. I really just make the menus, and they look at it from afar, and they say, oh, that sounds great. And then they come in like once a quarter, and they try everything. They're like extremely happy with what they see.
So 21C, they have hotels of this ilk all around the country, or about how many?
So we have 8 hotels right now.
Okay.
We're working on 9 and 10.
Okay. And they're based out of Kentucky?
They're based out of Kentucky, but they're mostly Midwest.
Okay.
We're actually like on an island for 21C. We're
like it being in the southeast.
The only one in the east, yeah. But they have one in Louisville, Lexington, Oklahoma, Bentonville, Cincinnati, obviously Durham. We just opened up Kansas City, and we're working on one in Chicago and then one in Des Moines.
Oh, going into the big city.
So
that's the first big city, yeah.
So are all the restaurants run similarly in a sense that they kind of run independent and there's not a lot of corporate mandate food menus and drink menus?
Yeah, exactly. And I'm glad you mentioned drinks because it's the same thing with our beverage program.
Yeah. Is
our beverage manager and our food and beverage manager. They have the freedom to do what cocktails they want and be as creative as they want. And, I don't know if you guys have had a cocktail at our place before.
I have, and not only that, but you guys have an extensive bourbon and whiskey list, and you can do flights of those and do smaller portions. So if you want to go and try your hand at some really cool whiskeys or different liquors, go hang out at 21C because they got a lot there.
Yeah.
And back when I was the GM at Standard, I asked Matt to consult on the wine program. And I go to 21C for whatever reason. I'm having a drink at the counting house. And I looked at the menu, and there were about 7 exact same wine choices that were on their list that were on our list at Standard.
I stole it right from them.
well, there you go. I was going to say, this person knows what they're doing because they're doing exactly what we're doing. But,
is that true?
It was like it's a silly backhanded thing. But of course, I mean, Matt knows a ton about wine, and I feel like I know something about wine. And you go to so many, definitely when you go to hotel restaurants, the wine list is just like brought to you by Southern Wine and Spirits or brought to you by Diageo, and it's just all paid for, bought,
grocery store brand,
grocery store, like whatever. That is not the case here. You have an exciting menu that's always changing, and you've had different beverage directors over the time, but it seems like everyone has thrown in their own splash. They've made an impact. They know what the community is all about. Durham is a pretty edgy community when it comes to food and beverage, and so they get that and they make it fun. I mean, that's how like no one really knows about beverage directors unless they actually do their job right.
Yeah, it's kind of like an umpire, right? Or like a referee. It's like nobody knows them unless it's the
good or bad.
Yeah, unless they screw up. You know?
Or they have huge guns like Ed Hockley or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, but what is that? Because I think you obviously, I wanted to ask you this also, have extensive hotel chefing experience, having worked at Farrington and having worked at the Umstead. First of all, what's the deal with that? You just like hotels? You like a place? You're worried that you're going to get kicked out of your house and you need a place to stay?
Well, no. Actually, the Umstead Hotel was the first hotel I ever worked in.
Okay.
Before then, it was a lot of privately owned mom and pop kind of restaurants, and just getting into that environment, it's more exciting to me than just running a regular kitchen service. Like, having the hotel with, all the banquets, catering, the bar, the room service. There's just so many different moving parts that
12-hour days are for losers.
Yeah, pretty much.
Or like 18-hour days.
Yeah, and having 3 different revenue centers minimum.
Yeah. But it really allows us to do more creative things on the menu. Having those different revenue centers. I mean, previous jobs, we weren't working with things like foie gras or squab or, some of the finer proteins or food products. We were really just kind of restricted to what we were getting from U.S. foods and things like that. So, having those different revenue centers, and that really kind of caught me, and that's the reason why I stay in hotels.
Meaning like you have a bigger purchasing power, essentially?
Yeah.
So you can buy anything from anyone you want. Yeah.
Exactly, yeah.
And just looking at those places, obviously, so for those people listening outside of North Carolina, the Umstead is amazing hotel in Cary, North Carolina. That it was a 5-Diamond Forbes award winning, really just a first class resort almost, and it's a destination.
It's an internationally recognized restaurant and hotel.
Yeah. And then when you were at the Farrington House, it was, I believe, top 100 best places to eat in America. Yep. But the point I'm driving at here is those, very different from where you are now, were destination places. You basically have to go there and decide that you're going to eat there or going to stay there, whereas 21C is in downtown Durham. And so it's funny because we were talking about it before, but it's not a destination. As a matter of fact, more so than most hotel restaurants that I've ever seen before, is really more part of the neighborhood. And like, if you're doing a bar hop or an app crawl or something around Durham, you're likely going to stop there because, as we mentioned, the bar and the food's awesome. So how does that differ from other places you've been working at, and how have you guys cultivated that?
Well, as much as it's not a company goal of 21C to become a destination, it's a personal goal of mine. So I want to make it there. I want to make this restaurant to really stand out in the food scene and get bigger and grow in popularity. But, being part of the neighborhood in Durham is really a great thing. There's so many great chefs in that little area that we're in walking distance from Michael Lee. We got Mateo's right down the road. So it's just really kind of inspiring to see what everybody in the community is doing. And then you also have these events that just pop up, like this hurricane that came through, and you see everybody in Durham is pulling together to try to raise as much funds as they can to send down to the coast. So, I mean, that part of being part of a community is really really special to me.
Yeah.
And I'm enjoying that now rather than being at my last places where we're kind of isolated and not really part of, what's happening in Cary or what's happening in Pittsburgh. We're more worried about what's happening.
I'm not sure, and I can edit this out if you're not doing something with him, but Regan Stockler and I have been like texting like crazy last night and over the weekend just about what can we do, how can we help out, and he's setting up a chicken wire event. I believe he texted. He's a spastic person and texts me in the moment, like no filter, like this is what I'm thinking right now.
No context.
No context. It just comes at you at 100 miles an hour. And I'm gonna have he and Bud Taylor from Top Sale, the Bistro Top Sale, on in about an hour from now. We're going to call him in. He's going to call in because he can't even get to his restaurant right now. It's on an island, and it's totally flooded out. He can't get there. In fact, he hasn't even been able to shower since Wednesday. So that's why we don't want him in the studio. Just have a call. But Regan mentioned that he wants to do a dinner. I believe you might be, or at least you're trying to figure out how to be involved. Is that right?
He actually texted me last night.
Yeah.
I told him definitely. He's actually doing 2 different events. He's doing one October 7th, I believe.
Right, yep.
And then he's setting up another one for everybody that can't do it on October 7th for the first week of November.
Yeah.
So
that's the one I'm going to help out with because I'm doing a
Tasteful Affair
in Chapel Hill for the Ronald McDonald House that night. So.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah. Hey, everybody. We're going to take a quick break from today's show with Chef Thomas Card to talk with another chef, a chef that is dealing with a little bit of water right now and some struggle, sadly. We have Chef Bud Taylor of the Bistro at Topsail out there in East North Carolina. What's going on, Chef?
Hey, how's it going, guys?
For anyone that doesn't know, and I'll just throw this out there right now. So you're in Topsail, which is north of Wilmington by, I don't know, 10 miles?
Yeah, maybe 15. Not very far.
Yeah, 15 miles.
20, 25 minutes up from Wilmington.
To give a little frame of reference, Bistro Topsail is a fantastic restaurant, top 100 most scenic restaurants in America by Open Table, NCRLA Best Chef North Carolina finalist last year, Best Bourbon Bar in America by American Bourbon Association 2016. Now you're speaking my language.
See, now we're talking.
Yeah. So you've got an amazing place, but right now it's been hard to get to from what I understand, right?
Yeah, so we're on Topsail Island. We're in Surf City, right in the center of the island. So the island's like 23 miles long, has 3 municipalities within that. And so far, no one's been able to get back onto the island. They're still trying to get power poles up and streets cleared and that kind of thing. We've been able to get a few pictures from, some law enforcement guys and stuff that we know, a couple storm chasers during the storm. So, we know we have pretty substantial damage. We don't know what the inside's going to look like. So, yeah, we're kind of in this limbo situation. Everyone hears they've gotten maybe 20% of the people back with power, some with water, some without water. Nothing on the island has power or water.
Oh,
so,
man.
It's just one of those situations where you sit here and you want to help and you want to do things, but you can't even get back to your own stuff to start taking care of it.
Jeez. Hey, Regan, are you there?
Yep, I'm here, guys.
Hey, welcome. We were kidding around saying that both Bud, myself, Thomas Card, and pretty much every other chef in town was on the receiving end of your stream of consciousness via text message last night, talking about chicken wire and trying to help out East North Carolina. So welcome.
Yeah, I am famous for blowing up people's phones.
The one thing I know reading from one of Regan's famous texts was that Bud had mentioned he hadn't even had a real shower since Wednesday. It's Tuesday right now.
Yeah,
so
today Tuesday.
Yeah, so
last Thursday morning, I think.
Yeah.
My day's kind of blurred together because we don't really have TV or anything either. Yeah, we've been kind of taking bird baths and purified water from our rain catch system on the farm. And
at least you have that.
Yeah, we at least we have that. We have a small generator where we were able to get our fridge plugged up, so we're better off than some people. But beyond that, we don't have a whole lot going on.
Was your walk-in full of food? You're expecting to lose all that?
Yeah, I mean, we had we had just gotten in like huge produce orders and stuff from some of our farmers, and then our shellfish, from Anna had dropped off a bunch of things for us. And so we packed everything we could in our walk-in freezer, and we were hoping to be able to get back to it within a couple of days so it would still be good and we could use it, to kind of cook for first responders and line crews and that kind of thing. And, at this point, all of that's gone, so we've lost all of that. It's just sitting there and not being used for anybody, and it's gone bad. So that really sucks,
Yeah, it's going to be awful.
So was the whole Topsail area completely evacuated? Is that right? I mean, maybe there were some people that were still there, or what was the deal right before?
Yeah, a few people stayed on the island, tried to ride it out, or did ride it out. They called for mandatory evacuations on, I think they decided Tuesday, maybe Wednesday morning. They switched it to mandatory. At that point, it was still coming in as a Category 4, which, is going to be really devastating if if you get landfall with that. And so most people left, and that's the thing now. Wilmington's kind of cut off all the in routes. They've just a couple routes, I think, have opened up today. The water's gotten low enough, so some people are starting to trickle back in. So for the last few days, we've been in a situation where, there's still no gas, there's no fuel. They've been airdropping supplies in. They got military helicopters and stuff and that kind of thing. So it's been it's a mess, man. It's a mess.
I mean, realistically, what do you think in your heart how long is it going to be till you think you can open the doors again for your restaurant?
Who knows? I mean, a few weeks, best case scenario, a few weeks.
Wow.
Worst case scenario, months. I mean, it just depends. If there was flooding, then it could be, the rest of this year we're done.
Not to mention, who are you going to cook for?
Right. Who's going to have a fancy meal right now?
That's it.
Yeah.
That's exactly. Then what do you do? Because the homeowners are going to come back, but they're going to be focused on trying to rebuild their own homes and that kind of thing. And so, there are no tourists coming back. So it's going to be, the economic impact for the community as a whole is going to be astronomical, not only from a destruction standpoint, but from a standpoint of the lost revenue for everyone involved, and that all just like ripples in a pond, it spreads out to the farmers, the fishermen, other suppliers, to everyone,
Yeah. Now, how does insurance work here? I mean, is there some sort of safety net at all?
Yeah. I mean, personally, I have insurance for, you have all kinds of stuff. You have, if you can get flood insurance, you have flood insurance on the building structure. Then you have all the commercial stuff is like a line item. So you have insurance on spoilage and refrigeration failure, personal property, liquor inventories, et cetera, and it just goes down the list. And so then you have a situation where you go back between multiple insurance companies of, this was caused by wind and driven rain, but this was flood, and then this was this and that. And, so they're picking up this part and they're picking up that part, and then no one wants to pay for this. And so it's a nightmare, man. It really is. Yeah.
And the ripple effect is, every server, every line cook, but then also the vendors like the oyster farmers. And we were just talking to Dan Lewis up there in Southern Shores about Oystoberfest happening supposedly October 13th. That is, if things aren't as messed up. Now, he's a little further north, and I don't think they got as hit as hard as y'all down there. I mean, we just had Dean Neff on as well, and he was evacuated. He was out in his homeland or his hometown of Athens, Georgia for the hurricane, but he hasn't even been able to see his restaurant Pinpoint this whole time. And you're still waiting. I mean, have you received any updates at all from the state?
The local government's really not given us a ton of information.
Yeah.
It's a little off-putting. It's kind of difficult. I don't want to kick people while they're down in the middle of stuff, but it's pretty frustrating on our side as far as being a business owner and not being able to get information out of them and that kind of thing.
Right.
So we're hoping for the latter part of the week, and then we can kind of assess the damage and see where we are, and hope for the best that things aren't as they're not business ending situations.
Yeah.
I mean, we're pretty sure it's not a catastrophic type thing at this point, just from the photographs. But there's definitely, we have an adjacent building that we use for warehousing supplies and stuff, and it looks like you blew it up. It's scattered across the parking lot. We know we lost part of the roof, on the back side of our building. So some things like that we're aware of. But yeah, like I say, we're just kind of in limbo at this point and trying to help neighbors and do what you can. So.
Yeah, let me just paint a picture for those that are trying to understand this, and maybe you already grasped this as a listener, but you own your own business. You're told to evacuate. You've been gone for almost a week now, and you have no idea what your business even looks like. You don't know what your house may look like if you live there. You don't know if you even have a business to come back to. You don't know the level of how far it is. I mean, this is where he and many business owners are at right now. Not just restaurants, I mean, everybody, down to the local gas station to, the Quickie Mart, whatever. Everyone is concerned with what's to come. So, that leads me into how can we help? And that's also why we have Regan on, because we're trying to figure out the best ways to do things. And now, going to a dinner and donating some money is a drop in the bucket to really help out in these times of need. But it's something that people can do. Now, on our website and on all of our show notes, we've been posting donation links to the Red Cross, and then obviously guys like Chef Jose Andres have got the World Central Kitchen out there. That's helping out for first responders, feeding people and doing what they can. But this is a time when everybody really should come together and help out as much as possible. And so, Regan, I'd love to just chat real quick. I know you talked about how we can get the community together. What do you have planned? What can we do, and how can we as residents of North Carolina help come together and help out the East North Carolina right now?
Yeah, Chef James Clark sent me a message, said, hey, Regan, do you think we could do a chicken wire for this? But I was thinking to myself, as you see online and Facebook, everybody trying to help. It's like, what can I do to help? And I just started, like you guys say, I just start blowing up everybody's phones with messages, seeing what I can put together, who can get involved. And we need to get on this as soon as we can.
Right.
I had already about 20 chefs wanting to be a part of it in the Triangle area. And, I'm going to do an event in October on the 7th, and then with one group of chefs. Of course, that'll be in our hidden locations like we do chicken wires. Then I came up with a new approach for chicken wires. We're going to do basically a pop-up restaurant for 4 days. I'm going to pair off different chefs from the Triangle. So at least 2 chefs each night and 2 different chefs will do a dinner at a hidden location starting in November. And that'll run from a Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and a Saturday. I just found out this morning was Mike Moore, who's the creator of Blind Pig.
Yeah.
I got him on the closing night, on the Saturday night.
That's amazing. Now, if people don't understand, Blind Pig, Chicken Wire, these are 2 pop-up dining experiences. One being Blind Pig being based out of Asheville, and of course Chicken Wire based more in the Triangle. Never have the 2 have met in the public yet. Together, yeah. But everybody's friendly and works well together. So this is we know each other. We run into each other at Lambstock. Yeah,
but we've never actually cooked together.
And so this is for fanboys and girls out there of pop-up dining series and chef series. This is kind of one of the coolest things you can think of. You've got 2 of the greatest collectors of pop-up dining experiences working together to help out East North Carolina, which is fantastic. We're going to try to help out in any way possible. I think the October 7th event, I personally will be doing my own charity event for the Ronald McDonald House at the A Tasteful Affair in Chapel Hill. So we're all trying to do something for someone somewhere. But when you start doing that pop-up nightly series, the pop-up restaurant, I'll be there and we'll help out. I think I talked to Matt already, and hopefully we can start pairing some wines and making it delicious for everyone. So let's get some information out there. You can go to Regan's website. Go to chickenwirenc.com to check out dates and all. Plus, you can follow him on Instagram at chickenwirenc as well. And so proceeds of these events will go to benefit those that are affected by the hurricane on the East Coast, on the eastern North Carolina and South Carolina. The whole area has just been devastated. I mean, people don't realize, too, that whereas the hurricane itself affects with the wind coming through, it really is many times the most egregious part of it is the flooding that happens after. And that's what a lot of people are dealing with right now, is all the flooding that comes from the post-hurricane effect. So the struggle is right now. Like I said, this is Tuesday. This is like 5 days later after Hurricane Florence first touched down on land. But we're experiencing a lot of this right now. So whatever you can do to help, we'll send this podcast out this week and try to get more information. But reach us out here. You can follow us at NCFB Pod on Instagram and Twitter, and we'll try to direct you where you want to go, but also go to @ChickenWireNC and hit up Regan. Text him crazy, like spastic texts in the middle of the night, just whatever you're thinking.
Please.
He's used to that.
Like each letter in a different text. He likes that.
Yeah, that's a good way to go. But, well, gents, thank you so much. Bud, we're going to have to get you in here into a proper interview so we can know more about you and your restaurant and what you do. Hopefully, after all the dust and the water has settled, and we can look forward to a beautiful new version and what we're doing at the Bistro at Topsail, and really get the full story of you and what you do for the community out in that area. And Regan, I'll be seeing you around.
Yeah, buddy.
So. And immediately following this conversation on the phone, I received a text message from Regan Stockler that read, here are the details. A Chicken Wire event for NC chefs, farmers, and fishermen, October 7th, $68 plus 2 drink tickets. Sounds good. Past hors d'oeuvres with Chef James Johnson, Regan Stockler, and Adam Jones. Courses by Bo Peterson, Margie Hennessy, Colin Speaks, James Clark, Robin Bilodeau. To-go treats by Jessica from Sweet Cravings Cookie Company and Marcy Clark. And Straw, Sticks, and Bricks, that's Zach, good friend of the Chicken Wire, that's going to provide beer and cider. Lionel Vatanet, good friend of the show, providing bread. And Neil Thornton of Sour Grapes, good friend of ours, providing wine. Check out our website, ncfbpodcast.com, or Twitter and Instagram at ncfbpod, and follow Chicken Wire at chickenwirenc to find out more details. And now back in studio with Chef Thomas Card. You and I were having sharing a cocktail or something in Charlotte right before the NC Bar Showdown, and I see you and I'm like, oh, it's so great that you're here because I wanted to ask this question. I had a burger and fries and some deviled eggs at the 21C during my fantasy draft, and I'm having the burger, which was delicious, the deviled eggs delicious, but nothing compared to the French fries that I was eating. I'm like, what is going on here? I have never eaten a French fry that tastes like this. It was crispy yet light, and then you still got a little bit of the dough of the doughiness of a French fry, but it was so light and airy. I mean, I was mowing them down. I'm like, I wonder how they do this. And then I look over, I'm like, oh, there's Chef Thomas Card, who makes those French fries sitting right next to me. I'm like, Thomas, how do you do this? And I was very satisfied to know that it wasn't simple and it was extremely complex. Do you mind letting us know a little bit of the secrets of how you make those French fries?
Yeah, sure. The fries is a process. We do about 4 cases of potatoes every 3 to 4 days, depending on business, and we cut them in-house on a fry press. We rinse them for at least 10 minutes in running water constantly, just to get the extra starches off of them. But then it's like a 3-step process from there on. So it goes from blanching. We use a little bit of vinegar and salt in the water when we blanch, to steaming. Got to definitely let them steam out all the extra moisture, and then flash fry.
Yeah.
We flash fry for about a minute and 45 seconds, and then freezing. So the fries have to freeze before they hit the fryer for service.
So you blanch, steam, and flash fry before you even think about this is like a day before or whatever, because then you freeze them.
Yes. Yeah.
So then they're just ready for service.
Right.
So what does the freezing do? Why does it have to be frozen before you?
So the freezing, it helps align all the starches and get everything.
So even though you blanch them and dry them to get the starches out, then you want the starches to come back.
Right.
Okay.
Well, we don't want them to come back. We want all the starches that are there to get that crispy on the outside and that creamy on the inside. We really want everything on the outside to kind of freeze and, I don't want to say align the starches, but that's basically what it's doing.
Okay, so then now you take them out of the freezer.
Yeah, and then the frying process on the pickup, I mean, it's almost taking them to the point where they're over fried.
Mm-hmm.
We definitely want to capture that crispy on the outside, but if you let them go too far, they're gone. But it's that perfect golden brown every single time. The way I can describe it's kind of like finding the one French fry that just kind of let all of its stuff out in the fryer and got that on the edge of your basket, and that's the one you eat, and it's like probably the best fry in the whole basket because it's just saturated with fryer oil and salt and but it's kind of like that, but all the way around. So
you flash fry again on the pickle?
No, we don't flash fry. We
just
fry.
Just fry. Yeah. And then is it like you use duck fat or anything like that? No duck fat.
No duck
that's
fat.
like, I feel like was all the rage a couple of years ago is fries and duck fat. That was the thing. No.
We do use a rice bran oil, which has a higher flash point than your regular canola or soy oil. So the oil itself won't last longer, but then we can also fry at a higher temperature without worrying about burning out the oil too quickly.
Like, for example, what temperature?
375 to 400.
Okay.
Depending on what else we have on the menu. Preferably 400, but, if we have our chicken dish, which we kind of utilize the fryer for, I don't want to screw that up, so we turn it down a little bit.
Okay. One other question about those. So where are the potatoes coming from that you use?
Just regular Idaho's.
Regular Idaho potatoes. Because you're doing so much to those anyway that they don't have to be like...
Yeah.
I mean, they're still high quality.
Idaho's where you want to get potatoes if you're going to get them.
Yeah. North Carolina is not really known for their russet potatoes.
Yeah.
But, if I could source them, that'd be a great thing. But, we do go through such a mass amount every week.
Well, and so that's technique right there in a nutshell. And I think you were also humble enough to say, I think you walked into that recipe or somewhat like that from the previous chef. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's true. I did walk into that, but we've kind of changed the process along the way.
Right, because you understand, you streamlined it or made it your own at least.
Well, we made it our own. Actually, kind of funny story. It was a mistake, but the fry cutter that we had was a certain size, and it was like, the only way we can get these fries to work is if we use this one certain size for everything. Well, we lost that cutter. And we had a backup one, which was slightly larger, so I pretty much had to take the whole formula and transform it into working out for the larger cut. So
because buying that piece for $9 would have
it was like $69 bucks. But,
it would have bankrupted the whole company.
Yeah, But it was more of a necessity at the time. It was like, shoot, we lost it, but we still need fries, so
let's just do this.
We kind of have to do this.
Yeah.
Let's adjust this, adjust that. And
I mean, you heard it here from me. I swear, like, I'm a connoisseur of burgers and junk food and all that in general, but nothing was better than the fries that I had at the counting house. So just do yourself a favor. Next time you're drafting your fantasy football league, spend 3 hours there and have the fries.
You know what it also reminds me of? My wife is always saying, one of the things that, sticks in her craw is when we go out to a restaurant and she feels like, that was good, but it's something I feel like I could have executed at my home,
Yeah.
Like, that's something
couldn't do this.
No, you couldn't. It's a long
That's
process.
a great point. And so I was kind of leading you to talk about technique because we've mentioned before you worked at Heron's. Were you there when Scott Crawford was there?
Yeah.
So he was your chef, and Stephen Devereaux Green was the executive chef, executive sous. I'm sorry. I'd love to know. You've been around some really fantastic guys and really fantastic minds about technique in general. Give us just something. I know I'm putting you on the spot right now, and if you got to take your time, you can get up and maybe pace around a little bit to think. I'd love to know. Give us an idea of how one of these really great-minded chefs changed your perception on how to do a particular cooking style?
Yeah, well, I'll go back to Scott Crawford. I was there right before he actually showed up, and at the time, Heron's and the Umstead were new in its infancy of becoming a hotel.
Right.
So the cooking technique wasn't very refined. It was kind of like your regular corner restaurant, but trying to do fancy stuff in a nice hotel.
Yeah.
So when Crawford showed up, he really taught us refinement. And, you talk about technique, but technique is only so good if you're not getting a really refined product at the end. So things that he taught me, down the road were, sous videing and, fabrication of meats and things like that. But really doing it in a refined way that, we have zero waste. The end product is absolutely perfect. And just kind of instilling those standards.
Yeah.
And then from Colin, techniques that I learned from him, there were so many. But I don't know if many people know this, but he is an amazing pastry chef.
Yeah.
Well, he was talking about it last year when we had him on during Terra Vita that he had to go back and make the pastry because,
No, he had made it that morning at 5 a.m.
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, my day started at 5 a.m. doing all the pastry. Then I had to collect all my things and get ready because I had today's grand tasting at Terra Vita, so I had to present all this stuff. And then I got to go back tonight for dinner service.
Right. Yeah.
Like, wow. Proving right there that he's not just standing around watching his executive Sue do all the work.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But I mean, he taught me so much in the pastry world about technique with chocolates and pastries and making your own pastry dough or croissant dough. So really, I mean, talk about technique. I mean, coming from both those chefs, I mean, they both are great for a reason, you know?
Yeah.
So
you should be the best chef then.
Yeah, you have some serious pedigree.
That's why I show up at the...
That's right, at all the events. Yeah, seriously, now it all makes sense.
Throw it down, man.
Yeah.
No.
So, then was that a decided move by 21C to then like, okay, let's find out who's got the chops to really run this kitchen and make it stand out?
Yeah, not really.
It's actually called Craigslist, and he answered.
Yeah. Well, so when 21C was first coming to town, I was at Farrington, and I heard about this new hotel that was going to be opening up in downtown Durham, and the luxury brand that was doing it and putting it up. And I think I actually applied for the executive chef job then, and I didn't ever hear anything. So, a year and a half later, I saw the ad go up again, and I applied, and I still didn't hear anything. And
well, you have to actually walk in the door.
Yeah, I mean, that's what it seems like. Excuse me. But about 2 weeks after that ad went down, it came up again. So at that point, I was applying on their website. I was applying through Indeed, Craigslist, like just 100 resumes flying at these people.
And they still weren't open at this point, or they were?
Oh no, they were open.
Okay.
They were searching for a new chef at that point, and I think they had a candidate that was up in Chicago, but after he accepted the job, he quickly declined the job and decided to stay in Chicago.
When did the 21C open?
2015. March.
Okay.
Yeah. So, finally they gave me a phone call, and funny story was I thought I was talking to the HR person the whole time, and we had like a 2-hour conversation, and they talked to me about coming in and doing a cook test and all this great stuff. So I of course said yes, and then went in to do my cook test. Ended up being that I was cooking for like the vice president of the company, and that was the person I was talking to the whole time. Like she wasn't HR at all. She was just
nice
looking for a good candidate for her hotel.
Well, I like that you were talking to the person that kind of runs the higher level of everything, because that means that she really cared about who she was going to bring in.
Yeah,
that's cool.
And she ended up being a extremely cool person. She was cussing during the middle of our interview and everything like that. I was like, this is going to be a good fit. I can kill this right now.
Yeah, totally. It does always put you at ease when the other person curses.
Yeah.
Like, do you notice that? Yeah.
Shit.
But so from there, it was easy. I mean, I walked in after my cook test.
What'd you make on your cook test?
Oh God, I made so many different things. We did like a 5-course tasting, and I wanted to show them that I can do everything that they needed in the hotel.
Yeah.
So, I started out with some bar snacks, one of which is actually still on the menu now, our sweet potato chips, which are like a fried tapioca sweet potato chip.
Oh, cool.
And then I did, like a basic bitch salad, like what women want, then they're on a date and they don't want
salad.
Yeah. So, and they actually really loved that. And then I did a more kind of banquet style dish to show them that, hey, this is what I would serve to 150 people, and this is what it would look like.
Yeah.
And then I did like an over-the-top chicken roulade dish with, the comfy meat stuck into the middle and the skin wrapped around the outside of it, and, great chicken jus to go with it. And that was kind of like, this is what I would do in the restaurant. So, and then dessert, and this is really where I get a lot from Colin, is, I did this bread pudding. Actually, both Colin and Crawford. Crawford taught me how to make great bread pudding. And I don't know if he's ever really talked to anybody about it, but he likes to make bread pudding, and he does a fantastic job at it.
That's my mom's favorite dessert.
Yeah. So, I did bread pudding, and it actually failed miserably because I was in an unfamiliar place, and at least I thought it failed. It wasn't exactly what I wanted. But I went out and served it to him, and I kind of walked back into the kitchen, and I was just like, oh, fuck, screwed that up. And
well, they didn't hire you to be the pastry chef anyway. So
well, the corporate food and beverage director came flying around the corner, and she was like, "That was fucking amazing." And I was like, "Oh shit, I guess I didn't fuck it up."
That's like, I kidded with Matt, like I've sold wine like unknowingly, like I poured a glass of wine to somebody and it was corked and I didn't smell it before because I'm a bad rep, and the person liked it and they're like, "Yeah, I'll take this by the glass. Send me 3 cases." Really? You like the thing that sucked? Wow, this is going to be a great, you're going to be a great client.
I want to explore that for a second because we've never really talked about that, but the whole cook test thing, as far as chefs go, and for any of you that are listening that are inspiring, ECs, that's got to be a daunting task to figure out what do you cook for your cook test, how do you prepare, and it sounds like there was a lot of thought going in for you, but you also had the experience, I guess, of working in a hotel, so you knew kind of that, like, oh, I need to prepare a little bit of everything.
Yeah, and the thing about a cook test, too, is they ask you to come and cook in their kitchen.
Right.
So you're walking into complete unknown. Like, you don't know if the kitchen's going to be clean. You don't know if they have the right equipment that you need to do what you're thinking.
Where are the microwaves?
No microwaves needed. But, just doing the whole thing and, like, from being on that side of it, like, you go into it with, like, a plan. And this is how I expect to do this, and these are the variables that could happen, and this is what I'm going to do if it does happen. And
do they tell you how many people you're cooking for?
Yeah. They generally tell you how many people that you're going to cook for, and they give you a time frame of what you need. Most cook tests that I've done, they give me almost not 2 days, but like they'll give me 5 to 6 hours the day before to go in and kind of prep everything. And then
do they shop for the groceries, or do you have to shop for the groceries?
They would like you to send. Most of the time, they'd like you to send a list of what you're going to need,
so they can get them through their
so
purveyors.
they can get them there for you. Me myself, I definitely have I had a traveling, little kit that I brought with me of all the little things that I like to do. So if they didn't have something, I most likely had it with me.
Okay.
It sounds like the SNL cast audition, like when you go in and you gotta do all your characters and your voices and all that. You see those guys doing the Saturday Night Live audition, except in a kitchen, and showing like all the widest amount of diversity of what you can do, and you're just like, this is me completely. It must be a weird, like, out of body experience when you see all the food laid out on a table and you're like, that is essentially as good as I am right now at this second.
Yeah, you're not wrong. I mean, putting it out there, it's kind of scary at the same time because you don't know what they're thinking. Most of the time they're in a separate room and you're in there cooking, and they give you a waiter that doesn't really care about anything that's happening. So they're having all these conversations, and then you have to go out and sit down with them and then hear it back. So, I mean,
do they critique every dish, or like do they give you feedback on everything?
This time they did. Yeah. They critiqued a lot, and I mean, thankfully the critiques were great. But before, in the past when I've done them, it's kind of like, oh yeah, we really love that, and we really love this. And
so it kind of sounds like being on Top Chef almost, but except you're not competing against somebody else. It's just like your own critique.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
you are competing against other people.
Yeah. Well, that's true.
I've
just
been at the table.
The
I've been on the other end of that. I've been the guy trying to hire a new chef. And I specifically remember we had 3 chefs come in, and they all cooked for us within the same week. And it's just funny to watch them in the kitchen the day before doing the prep, as you mentioned, Thomas. And then it's funny because one of the things I was watching was how they were interacting with this team at that moment in time, because this was going to be their new team. And so, like, one of the chefs kind of came in a little gruff and a little, like, ordering people around to do some of his prep, which is fine if he can get them to respond, because then you're an instant leader and all that. But the team was not taking it so well. Conversely, to the person we did hire, they were like very humble. They were just working really hard, diligently, and people would come by and see what they were doing technique-wise and going, what is that? It's like, oh, I'm doing this to the corn. Do you want to help me with it? Yeah, cool. And then it's like, great. It's like, do you mind continuing doing this so I can do the next thing? Yeah, cool. So then now he's got a guy working for him doing that, and now he's on to the next thing and did it. And that was Ben Harris. He was doing all this cool stuff. He knocked it out of the park. He kicked so much butt on that tasting. But it was funny to see how other guys, like somebody else brought some food to us, and I just went, really? But I was like, dude, it's got to be a little bit more elevated than this. Like, it was just a mess on a plate. And I went, oh, wow. Okay, well, this is why we do this. But hopefully you, as the chef, just stick to what you're good at. The truth comes through your recipes, and the honesty of like, I'm going to do this, and I can do this every single day, and I can make this type of food every time. And that's ultimately, I think, when you're grading it, you're like, okay, this is great, but could this actually be a menu item? Or did this guy just shoot so far? Like, there's no way you could prep this every single day, you know?
And that was actually one of the critiques I got, were like, all of the touches on the plate, because the service at Counting House and the service at Farrington House are two completely different beasts. Farrington House is a prefixed, 3 to 4 course with amuse-bouche and canapes and pre-dessert and things like that. So we had plenty of time to, really finesse the dish and make it look beautiful. Whereas Counting House we're like luxury casual, like I don't know.
Like you have burger and French fries.
We have burger and French fries that has to be on the menu at all times. Our wait staff, they don't wear uniforms. They look just like you and I, and only way you can tell them that they work there is by a little pink penguin that they wear.
That's what that thing is.
You guys in that pink penguin. Oh man, I was laughing watching you carry that thing up the escalator the other day. Wherever you go, the pink penguin follows you.
Yeah.
Does it have a name?
Well, brand-wise, it's not supposed to have a name. But generally when I take one with me, his name's Floyd.
Pink Floyd. Got it.
Yeah. But yeah, no, that's the penguins. Yeah, they are. It's a brand thing. Every 21C hotel has a different color. They were originated from Laura Lee Brown and Steve Wilson, who were the original owners of the company. They were over in Italy, and they were collecting art for the museums and things like this, and they ran across these penguins, and they just kind of fell in love with them. They're made from all recycled plastics, like they're really good for the environment, and they brought, I think maybe a dozen of them, and they brought them back to the first hotel in Louisville, and they just kind of put them out, throughout the museum, and people just fell for them. They started picking them up and bringing them down into the restaurant and having them sit at their tables, and then, they're taking them up to their rooms and doing all these kind of crazy things with them. So I think at that point the brand was just like, hey, this is where we're going to go with this. This is our thing. So
it's cool.
Yeah, it's definitely something different.
Yeah. And you got to carry around Floyd with you everywhere you go.
But everybody that comes to my table, they're like, "Oh, the penguin!" Like, they know exactly where we are and who we are from. The penguins.
That's branding right there.
That's branding. Yeah.
One thing before we get away from this, if you were mentoring an aspiring executive chef, because you've done it so much and it was a really good little foray into that, what are like 3 quick tips you would give somebody who's going into a cook test or going into something like that? Like, what are the most important things to win at the cook test?
I think the most important things are be humble.
Mm-hmm.
Go in and do what you can do best and do that well. Have your presence in the kitchen not be intimidating to everybody else around you. Because like you were saying, when I did my cook test, I went in and everybody's kind of like, who the hell is this guy?
Yeah.
And, oh, he's not that good. What, and then they actually see you cooking and plating and they're like, oh shit, okay, now I want to work for that guy. And then the other thing is, just realize that it's not the last time that you're going to do it. There's going to be another opportunity down the road. So if something happens, learn from it, take it with you, and then improve upon it next time. So
that's such a great way to think, and such a smart way. That's probably why you have a great job, and you've worked at some great places because you have that humbleness, but also you know what you're doing.
Any things, events, dinners coming up at the Counting House that we need to know about, promote, should be at?
Sure. Well, one thing we have coming up this week, which you guys definitely don't need to be at, but we're doing a bride and groom kind of expo, which is going to be really fun and a lot of good time.
Max was on a weddings podcast recently. So.
Yeah, give shout out to Weddings for Real, Megan and Jason Gillikin. They have a great podcast, and Felicia and I were on it talking about back in the day when Felicia was a wedding photographer, and even I DJ'd some weddings. You can Google, just look for Weddings for Real. I believe Megan runs a Southern Soiree. She does a ton of weddings, and she's excellent at it. So she might even be popping in that weekend. Who knows?
Yeah. Probably.
And that's actually where I met Felicia. Was at the Umstead when she was doing the weddings thing.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. So
that's right, yeah.
That was a long time ago.
Was there any other thing that we needed to plug or any event?
Oh, yeah. Our Fork and Bottle series. So we actually have one coming up in October, and we're going to do it for hurricane relief for obvious reasons. So that's going to be the 3rd Thursday of October.
As you're pulling it up now, that third Thursday is the 18th?
Yeah, October 18th is the third Thursday of the month. So, yeah, check that out. Go to
CountingHouse NC.
CountingHouseNC.com. Awesome.
Yeah, and, talking about the chicken wire event, and I got paired up with Sean Fowler, which is really funny because every event I do offsite, I ended up being put next to Sean Fowler.
At Thrive, you were next to Sean Fowler. Yeah,
and like a handful before that. But so I'm probably going to reach out to a couple of chefs and try to make a collaboration dinner and see what we can do to raise money to help out.
And now you've planted yourself as a chef that everyone should know, but you're a community leader too. You're doing a lot for the area and will continue to do things. So it's really cool to watch the evolution and see young chefs like yourself. You're setting the tone for the new generation of North Carolina and really keeping it. It's great to know that it's in really great hands. Thank you for being in studio today, our inaugural guest.
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah,
so with what Max just said, I guess leave us with this. What's some life goals as a chef?
Yeah, I mean, the life goal is definitely to elevate the current restaurant that I'm in to being something that is not just your community place, but something that's recognized nationally.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the goal right now. I'm not sure how James Beard rolls into that. I'm kind of
get a PR agent and do a lot of work with James Beard House. That's your first start.
Yeah. And unfortunately, I don't have that, so we're just gonna try it the hard way and just keep cooking really good food and
that works too.
On. Yeah.
So,
but yeah, I mean that's kind of the goal right now, and then later on down the road, obviously, I mean I think every chef kind of wants to own their own place. So once my kids are grown up enough and probably in high school, and that's probably when I'll start looking into branching out on my own. But
nice.
Right now, I mean, you guys know being dads, like having little ones, that's a whole nother job on top of everything else.
It's crazy.
So, I don't know how you do that working chef hours.
Yeah. Well, my wife is great.
Yeah.
Well, and you just said before we got on the mics that you have two little ones and you're about to have your third one any minute now.
Yeah.
So, as Matt would say, mazel tov to that.
Absolutely.
But, well, thank you. Thank you for being in. Go check him out. Go downtown to the 21C Hotel. It's right in the heart of downtown Durham, so you're going to want to be there anyways. There's so many fantastic, fun things to do. So, and where can people follow you? Like, what's your Instagram follow?
My Instagram follow is @ThomasCard. My Twitter is @ChefCard, and that's pretty much all I do.
Nice. What's your Tinder account?
Yeah.
Just kidding.
I don't have one of those.
What's your?
Yeah.
Well, Chef, thank you. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for being our inaugural guest. Thank you for being a leader in the Durham community of chefs. And for all of you out there, as Max said, go to the Counting House. It's right in the heart of downtown Durham. You will eat and drink very merrily.
Thanks for listening to the NCF&B podcast. I am the voice, Brian Hoyle. And if you've stuck with us this long, review us on iTunes and remember, 5 stars are encouraged.